Leveraged index arbitrage is based on a financial strategy that clients with net worths in excess of $25 million dollars have been implementing for the last 3 decades. Now historically, access to platforms like this have been really restricted to decamillionaires, centimillionaires, and billionaires. But in 2018, I was able to get this platform approved to offer it to clients with substantially lower net worth amounts. Now, the platform uses a combination of a risk mitigation feature, kind of like a stop loss feature, to protect clients from market crashes, as well as leverage. In other words, using a bank's capital to maximize compounding in the early years. So, in today's webinar, I'm going to go through each component of leveraged index arbitrage and explain how it works and also explain why it works. So, before I do that, we're going to watch a brief 3-minute video clip of Tony Robbins recounting his experience interviewing hedge fund billionaire Ray Dalio. Now, Ray Dalio runs Bridgewater Associates, one of the largest hedge funds in the world. And when asked what elements he uses in his hedge fund, Dalio mentions 3 main elements that we use: leverage, risk mitigation, and backtesting. So let's take a look at this brief 3-minute video clip.
Ray Dalio, the largest hedge fund in the world, 160 billion. A big hedge fund's 15 billion. When I was coaching him, when I was talking to him, he got a phone call from the premier of China who was asking for some coaching on some decisions they're making for China's currency, right? It was just, I know I got a chance to be with literally the Da Vinci of investing. Most average people never heard his name, but right. You have to have 10 years ago, you should have a $5 billion net worth, and you had to give him $100 million to start with for him to talk to you.
Right.
Today, he won't talk to you and take your money no much money you have. He's closed his fund
Right.
out. He won't do a dime more. So in the end, he actually gave me a strategy that I said to him, I said, look, I said, Ray, I said, you're one of the most generous men I know. I said, you've just given me this incredible strategy, but the strategy was like explaining why most people lose money, and here's how he's made money in every market, right? Pretty complex strategy. And I said, the strategy's great, but it's kind of like you told me you want to build a chocolate cake, get some chocolate, get some sugar. You didn't tell me the amounts. I mean, the amounts are everything, right? You got to have the right amounts. And he goes, Tony, I can't give you that. That's my secret sauce. And I said, Ray, you can give it to me. He goes, I can't. He goes, that's what I get, that's why, I get the money I do. I said, no, you don't. You haven't taken money for 10 years. I said, you're going to give away half your net worth anyway. I said, you just got done telling me the average guy is never going to do this. Help me out. Give me your secret sauce, right? And I got him laughing. He goes, well, Tony, it's kind of complex. I said, I'm good at taking complex and making it simple. He goes, well, I use leverage. I said, create one without leverage so the average guy could do it.
Right.
And then I got this chill down the back of my spine when he said, well, it wouldn't be perfect. I said, your idea not perfect is better than anybody else on earth. I said,
Right.
Tell me. And then I took out a pen and I said, tell me the numbers, right? And he looked at me and goes, well, let's try this. And he starts to lay this thing out. So when I'm done, I can feel vibration in my body. Like I got something nobody's got that I can give to the world that'll be extraordinary. And he goes, go test that. He goes, don't, when people talk about testing, they look back 5 years or 10 years. He said, but the past doesn't equal the future that way. But if you were to test something over 75 years, the entire modern time of history, that's what you should test that formula. Back test it for 75 years, come back and tell me what you get. 85% of the time, it's for 75 years. Think of how much the world has changed in the last 10 years or 20 years. 85% of the time it makes money. The 15% of the time it didn't. The maximum drawdown in 75 years was not 20% like you've seen at 30 or 40 you've seen in the marketplace over the years. It's 3.9%. The average loss is 1.7. Average gain is 10%. So if you could go to Vegas and you could be right 85% of the time, and when you lost, only lose, 1%, 1.7%, you'd be investing a little bit, you'd be gambling a little bit, right?
So Ray Dalio mentions 3 main elements that we use in leveraged index arbitrage. Obviously leverage, risk mitigation, in other words, limiting your downside, and back testing, doing the due diligence to see how a particular financial strategy would have performed throughout several different historical periods in time. The one major element he didn't mention was the effect that taxes play in the long run, which I'll address in this webinar as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So there are 5 major advantages in the leveraged index arbitrage platform. Those 5 advantages include tax-free gains, tax-free drawdown retirement income, risk mitigation, We use responsible leverage, and the platform does increase certainty for the client. Let's go ahead and review each one of these 5 major benefits. We'll start with the tax-free gains. If we look at the different ways that different types of assets are taxed, we'll start off with a traditional investment. In traditional investments, for example, mutual funds, those would be funded with post-tax contributions, and the gains would be taxed annually, assuming that those gains were realized gains. So, a realized gain means that a particular asset in that portfolio was bought and sold in a given year, and therefore the gains that were made would be realized and taxed at short term capital gains tax rates. Conversely, stocks and real estate that are also purchased with post tax contributions but not sold in a given year would benefit from tax deferral. And these gains would be what they call unrealized gains, meaning that because those particular assets were not sold in that given year, any gains those assets would have experienced would not be subject to tax in that particular year. In other words, the taxes would be deferred and the taxes would be paid at the time that those assets were sold and or liquidated. Now, in the case of a qualified fund, for example, an IRA or a 401k, these assets are funded with pre-tax dollars, and any gains made in that particular year would also be tax deferred. In other words, those would also be unrealized gains, not taxed until those assets were drawn from in the form of retirement income. Now, there are 2 other assets that experience tax-free gains, which is hugely beneficial. The first one would be a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs are funded with post-tax contributions, and the gains made inside a Roth IRA would grow tax-free. Now, there's only one other asset that experiences the similar tax treatment as a Roth IRA, and that is cash value life insurance. So, in a cash value life insurance policy, there is an indexed account embedded inside the life insurance wrapper, assuming we're talking about indexed universal life insurance. That index's growth could be correlated with the S&P 500 or a number of other index options. If that cash value life insurance policy is a whole life insurance policy, the cash value growth would be associated with dividend credits issued by the life insurance company. And in both of those cases, the cash value growth, whether it be associated with index returns or dividend credits, would grow tax-free as well. But it's not just the ongoing annual tax treatment of the growth of each of these assets that counts. The real value of favorable tax treatment comes in when you are drawing down from these assets in the form of income. So, to learn about the tax-free income benefits of the leveraged index arbitrage platform, go ahead and watch the next video.